Hey everybody, welcome to TFT, Tarot for Today, Divine Dabblings with
Oberon.
Me, Banshee. Welcome to your Weird Week. And Bly's too.
So, what a weird week that was, eh?
Indeed. Indeed, we had a Trump indictment, and part of the country still doesn't care. We had a lot of strange things happening. There was actually, I think it just happened Sunday on the 11th that a bridge collapsed in Philadelphia, on a freeway that's a major artery from the East Coast down. It's going to cause some havoc. We've had, weird weather. We've had, what else? We've had a dam burst, of course, but that happened maybe the week before.
There's always something
part of that.
With Ukraine and Russia.
Ukraine has started its offensive, so there is that.
Is this when the La Nina news came out? Or
La Nina is, El Nino is going to happen, is already underway, apparently, causing some weather disturbances. The wildfires, let's not forget the Canadian wildfires turning the skies really scary Martian landscape type skies in New York there. So
I don't know that our cards were about too many of those things, maybe here or there, but to some degree, maybe those cards were about maybe more likely one thing.
Let's take a look and see what it amounts to. We were kind of leaning at the Trump indictment as being part of what this is about. And here's why. First off, last week, and by the way, the reading was from June 5 to June 11, and the major focus card was the Hermit upright. So it was a major focus theme tone for the week. With the Twin Tarot, I remember saying that I felt maybe it could be a judgment coming down of some sort. And, we were going to, some wisdom was going to come out, some information was going to come out. But it did.
But it did. I'm sorry, lost in thought a little bit here.
And so, that's what we found out is that, there was going to be an indictment. And not only that, I think even the media was under the impression that the indictment was going to be sealed till, he was arraigned, Mr. Trump was arraigned
this coming Tuesday.
Right.
Mm-hmm.
But they released the indictment information, and so it all came out.
Just prior to the release of the idea that it would be Tuesday, people still speculated that it would be 1 to 2 more weeks. But it all of a sudden happened.
So what will we find out or see? Well, the Nine of Swords was here. The Nine of Swords was reversed, which means that maybe some anxieties were allayed. Some people are kind of relieved that this is finally happening, that something is being done. But I can't believe everybody felt that way. There's been all kinds of threats and intimidating words going on since. So I don't know. And maybe in a sense, Trump is relieved because, he can use a lot of this now for his campaign strategy. Nothing is stopping him from running. He can still run. And so maybe, on one hand, it's the, anticipation or the worries that he may have had are over because now he knows what he faces. Mm-hmm. So I can almost see it on both ends. What about you? You're not having anything to add?
I don't have a lot to add there. I think that maybe some people are relieved because they can maybe change their feelings about Trump to some degree now, one way or the other. And so you have seen that a little bit in the Republican Party. A few people have kind of changed their rank with him. So in a sense, that could be talking about that too, not feeling like they're beholden or anxious over him in general.
Well, what's really interesting here, I think, more than anything, is our card 3, which was what other perspectives need to be considered. And because we use the Tarot of Opposition, which takes into account both sides of the card, We had the Wheel of Fortune reversed.
Some people thought it was the greatest thing. Some people thought it was the worst thing. Some people thought everything was screwed up about. Some people thought maybe it was even almost divinely inspired.
Some people think there's good karma here. Some people think there's bad karma here. And let's face it, somebody's fortunes are in the balance, are hanging in the balance.
Yeah.
Whether, whether the person being prosecuted feels that way or not.
Mm-hmm.
All right, because from everything I'm hearing, some of these charges are rather serious. Okay, card 4, the sun is reversed here, and that was...
the overall impact.
The sun was reversed. Well, there's a lot of trepidation, there's a lot of gloom, there's a lot of, I'm sure, well, first off, Donald Trump himself said that Melania is very sad about these charges. And so there are people feeling gloomy, there are people feeling bad, and, and there are people feeling mad.
Well, if you look from the overall idea of the sun, light was brought into an area. Maybe it was an area that didn't want to have light brought in, but somehow illumination kind of came forth from the overall impact. But with the sun reversed, the idea is exactly who is controlling the narrative, or who maybe is able to cast shadows here or there, we would say.
I like that, cast shadows.
In a sense of symbolism there.
So, and there may still be a lot of things that are in shadow. Things are going to be held in Florida now. It's going to be by a Trump-appointed judge. There's just, and in a state where, the governor of that state has promised to protect Trump, from extradition, etc. So, who knows what all this means?
And then...
Card 5. What could win the weird week or lose it, depending? And we had the 8 of Cups reversed.
8 of Cups reversed, kind of like saying, there's no motion really here. There's something that still has to be figured out or finished.
Right. And it's almost as if, we have to go and revisit something, thinking that we thought we were, moving past. And for some people, that is this whole episode, because they also realize now that it's not only this indictment, January 6th hasn't been decided yet. The election tampering, the Georgia thing has not been decided yet. There could be more coming down, which is causing us to revisit some rather unhappy times.
Well, another thing about the 8 of Cups reversed is when it's not reversed, it's sort of like saying there's light shining on a solution, there's light shining, drawing us, and so now it's like saying...
Or that we can aspire to higher things.
Now it's like saying we're not going to really get to a more lit place. We may be moving or stuck where we're at, but we're not really achieving, some sort of sense of completion or something better. Nothing's ending better, perhaps.
I'm going to add one thing into the mix that happened last week that I forgot about.
Okay.
The majority in the House of Representatives, factioned as they are, there was a certain percentage of them that blocked any legislation from moving forward because they were angry. They were angry at their leader, the House Speaker, who made an agreement with Biden to pass the debt ceiling. So for last week at least, they held up all legislation. In a way, I don't know if this is dealing with that, or maybe if more of this is going to play out in the week ahead. Are they going to finally, lighten up a bit? We shall see. And we shall see where this week's cards take us.
So let's begin then. And our first deck is the Twin Tarot Oracle that Banshee will wield here as we seek to see what is the overall main focus.
Yes, this is the overall main focus or theme, and it is a double major arcana oracle that will, has an upright and a reversed card. So we shall see what we get today. And it's reversed.
Oi! It's the tower
It's
reversed.
the flaming, crumbling tower.
We'll just put you way over there.
As our theme or focus, what is crumbling down, you know? Like I said, we had a bridge collapse in Pennsylvania, which is like, of course it was because of a tanker fire, you know, underneath the bridge. I suppose these things happen, but, you know, our infrastructure's so shaky.
Well, there's another question to ask too, which is, what is it that cannot be learned? Mm-hmm. And then that takes us into possibly a whole nother area. What is the lesson that maybe some of us are not learning or not seeing in the falling apart of something?
Right. You know, it's as if something we thought was firm, like our democracy, you know, maybe has been built on shakier foundations than we thought. You know, I'm just throwing that out there, but this could be other things too. There's a lot happening between Russia and Ukraine right now, and, you know, there's a lot of internal fighting between some, like one of the militias in Russia and, you know, the Russian military right now. There is also an offensive trying to take shape, or is actually moving on, by Ukraine, and of course the dam thing. I hear it's really going to start coming to head now, the ecological disaster.
There's even some unease in NATO itself and maybe some other governing bodies. Boris Johnson has resigned. I don't know if that's going to add to any chaos.
Well, he's not the prime minister, at least, but not only did he resign, two other people in his party, I believe, resigned as well, which is putting their parliament in a little bit of issues. Also, I might add, there have been a number of earthquakes, so I'm not going to rule out something, you know, maybe and volcanoes even, for that matter, when you see this kind of conflagration. So let's see what else we can find. What will we find out or see with Mr. O's Secrets Tarot?
Indeed, because there are a lot of things here that we've just suggested just in a few moments that this could all be about, that this is all way too mysterious. So let's see what that is.
A lot of stuff going on.
Oh, and we had this last week. It's another Eight of Cups, only this time it is upright.
And it's in a different place. What will we find out or see? You know, despite maybe whatever happens here, you know, in the indictments Tuesday, let's not forget that. Whatever happens here, you know, might be mitigated in a way by cooler heads that prevail. Maybe people who are seeking, you know, a higher standard, a higher perspective.
We may be able to find out that somebody like we're talking about is able to guide us towards our better interest and towards our better selves. And I think that's really wonderful if that could be that. Because, you know, I'm going to just go back a little bit to the first card and suggest that, of course, there are people who are so enraged about what's happening with the indictment that they're literally pledging to burn everything down. And, you know, that's like almost the literal representation of the tower falling apart with nothing being learned here.
Well, you know, we were all scared of that happening even when that trial took place in New York that he was involved in, you know, the libel trial. And I think here that the defamation of character, I think here that, you know, this is a little bit different. I mean, there could be some issues, but everybody expected his supporters to come out at that trial, and they did not. So we shall see. We shall see if it maybe has something to do with that. And we have to cool things down, you know, with cooler heads taking charge, taking control of things.
So now we're going to move to our share deck, the Tarot of Oppositions, and I'm going to let Banshee start shuffling. We'll both shuffle this one, as we should.
And the question is?
And the question is, what are the other perspectives that we need to consider here? And the Tarot of Oppositions is well suited for this because it's double-sided, so the idea of the reversed and the positive upright meaning, or whatever it is on each card, and you are actually called to consider both of those extremes or variations, as well as maybe that middle ground that could be there. We like it a lot. It seems to
it's a nice deck.
Work here well. And of course, it's still so very stiff. It's a challenge to shuffle. So I don't mind Banshee giving me
I
a
did
hand
good
there.
with the solid table.
Yes, it does help. It does help, doesn't it?
It does.
Okay, I'm going to give it one more.
You know, people complain about thinner cardstock, but with the way I shuffle, the sticker stuff isn't working for me.
All right, so once again, from the Tarot of Oppositions, what are the other perspectives we need to consider?
Well, it's the Seven of Pentacles reversed.
Oh, okay, it is. So it carries within it maybe some of the other ideas, but let's talk about that.
Emphasis on the reverse side, yet the other part plays a key here. So, I mean, you know, things that somebody has worked, or things that we feel we've worked so hard for, you know, they just seem to not be bearing fruit, or, you know, maybe fruit is rotting on the vine. You know, that maybe we've lost our motivation, our sense of, you know, trying to make things work right, trying to fix things, or maybe we're unwilling to put in the effort necessary anymore. And so, yeah, what do you think?
I could see this more in terms of our own America's political dynamic right now, but wherever it applies, it probably does, and it's that sense of that there's really a tale of the haves and the have-nots, a tale of two cities, of those who maybe have given up hope, who just have despair, and who sort of are just moving through their life hoping for anything that helps them, and then those who maybe are more privileged, and then there's a gradation towards the middle, you know, the very highly privileged, the not so highly privileged, and then people that are close to the point of giving up. And maybe that's that perspective to consider, is that there are so many people now who are tipping.
Tipping what? I'm just wondering, how is this applying here?
Well, we have to consider that there are no solutions that fit one size or objective.
I guess because we're so polarized now that, you know, some people who want to work the system and some people who do not, you know, there's just this huge polarity. But also one could apply this to Ukraine too, you know, where, you know, I think Russia, frankly, right now is on the top there, you know, with things not going their way at all. Ukraine is struggling to try to get their country back, and they're fighting hard, you know, but are either side winning in all of this? So much pain and suffering and environmental damage.
Well, you know, this could just apply to Russia itself, its own internal dynamic, and therefore maybe almost every country in the world right now, or the world itself, is having that sort of sense that there are too many problems and not enough solutions. There are too much money concentrated in hands and not enough going to help other people. And there's a lot of anxiety about the safety net and about overall viability.
I just look at the seven as being more about, you know, efforts that are either seem to not be bearing fruit, or, you know, work that's just not getting done. I mean, it is reversed here. It's almost as if somebody wants to throw in the towel too on something and say, maybe it's time to move on, or maybe I have to really put in a lot more effort and fight harder to make change happen.
Well, I felt that way because of my initial comments about despair that some people may be feeling, the haves and the have-nots.
Yeah, I guess I would have thought that way if it was a Six of Pentacles reversed, but I guess I'm not looking at that, but that's okay. I see why you're saying that.
So now we are on to card 4. What is the overall impact? And for that, Banshee will use her Healing Light Tarot.
Wow, I wonder if I'm going to come up with any one thing that applies to. Well, it's the Knight of Cups upright. So this is the overall impact, the Knight of Cups upright. That's pretty positive, I would say. I almost feel here that, maybe whatever's happening here is going to stir people emotionally to act from the heart for a change, as opposed to, cutting off that heart and taking a cold look at things.
Well, I think it could be, part of an overall growing movement that maybe has a catalyst happening. I could also see it being one or more individuals or just somebody arising. A hero arises, somebody who maybe is able to point out an inconvenient truth, but to do it in a loving manner, in a manner that's saying, I can help you bring this to another thing. And I'm not talking about, somebody who ends up being a demagogue. I'm talking about somebody who's a real personality, somebody that maybe is a senior statesman, maybe somebody who's respected around the world, from another world, a pope-like figure. I don't know. It's somebody who maybe is able to bring love into the equation and maybe help us look at ourselves too.
Well, that sounds too
hippy-dippy.
Yeah.
It does.
But
okay, so
I guess it sounds, I almost want to quote Tina Turner here, we don't need another hero. We need us all to operate from more of a heart level.
Yeah, it's true.
But let's see what you come up with this final card, because, wow, I'm scratching my head to where all of this is leading. So what could win or not this weird week?
And it's the Global Fusion Intuitive Tarot.
We never said doing this show would be easy and doing this reading to try to predict, but it's an awful lot of fun to try.
It is. And, besides the idea of doing the layering, I think it serves two purposes. One is we really like to share the beauty of some of these different decks we have. Sometimes they're almost exquisite, their sense of a different perspective maybe, or bringing out new perspectives. And then the other idea, of course, is that if certain cards show up in the same reading from different decks, or even across some of the spreads of readings, there's like, I'm supposed to do it.
Let's both do it. Oh no! Is that what I think it is?
It's the Chariot.
Oh, really?
I think so. It's the Chariot reversed.
Yes, the horses. The horses on the bottom.
What could or could not win the week is the Chariot reversed. I think you, the expert person, should go.
After all of that, after that knight rushing in, to save the day, according to Mr. O, it looks as though we're stuck. The horse is stalled.
The chariot got grounded.
The chariot got grounded. This is kind of sad. It's as if we've lost our ability to figure out a solution, to figure out what we need to do to move forward.
What's happening with card 4 is not necessarily the winning motivation for more people. It may work for certain people, but there are other people it's just not going to work for. Some people want more emphasis in other areas than healing, love, spiritual, dimension. And the last card is maybe suggesting this will not be the end of the matter, actually. There may not be a permanent solution with what we're seeing here. This may be about saying taking a little bit of a chill to understand motivations and what can work to bring disparate forces together that don't see solutions the same way.
So it's interesting. This reading is from June 12th to 18th, just reminding you. And, I'm looking at that here, and I can see a little bit of what's going on in the House of Representatives now, too, that things could still be stalled for another week, People want their attention on them, and, maybe this is showing the fragility of some of our systems of governance here, that a small minority in, the House of Representatives can tie up government in this manner. And if they're doing it now, they'll do it again at times when we have to pass budget issues, when we have to pass other important things too to keep the government running. So I almost could see that here. And,
what is the lesson and who is not learning it? Maybe it's the people who are allowing this to keep happening. And maybe, the other
Where are you getting that from?
The tower.
Oh, yeah. Yeah.
So maybe somebody has to figure out how to solidify or strengthen the tower so that it can't be so easily overwhelmed by these forces.
Right. When the tower is reversed, it's all about, repeating cycles of behavior. And, and that I guess is my point too as to why I think it could be Congress. Because the more these people keep doing it, they held up the vote for Kevin McCarthy to become Speaker and then decided finally when they were ready, okay, here it is, right? And so now, we have it happening again. So it's almost like repeating destructive cycles. However, I can't rule out the Trump trial either.
I was just going to say, well, we could talk about this in terms of the indictment, and we could see that, there is something breaking down here, and there are lessons that may never be learned from that, and that would speak to what's going on with the indictment.
And finally, Russia and Ukraine, there is just... a
lesson never being learned.
Well, the war just continues. And, they're not willing to sit down at the table and talk peace at all, either side. And so they're not learning what they need to learn to...
So that's the big three, maybe, that it most likely could be about.
And, of course, with the 8 of cups here, upright, we really need to think of the greater good. We need to think more altruistically. We need to think of higher wisdom and not our base instincts, not our base desires, not what we want, but what is best for, everybody involved.
Right. So in terms of the indictment, Americans in general, but certainly the people most affected, which we know that may or may not likely to work, but that's what we would like to feel is what has to happen, what we need to see here.
And in terms of the House of Representatives, even the Senate is getting concerned. Are we going to be able to do anything? We can have anything to show for now, going forward. They're concerned about what's happening there and what they're seeing. And also, I'm sure President Biden must be, as well as we American people should be aware that this is going on.
Well, basically what we need to see or find in all of these instances, even Russia or other world problems, is what we can all work towards. What is the shared vision? The thing that we can all move towards.
What other perspectives need to be considered? Well, that some want to work on the problem and some don't. I almost feel like that's what it is. And right now, the people that don't maybe have a little bit of the upper hand because, well, first off, if we talk about the indictment, let's start there, I think.
There's a squandering of resources, number one.
Well, if we talk about the indictment, there's a squandering of resources, true. But, I mean, in terms of people who don't want to work, people aren't budging from their opinions of, the former president, even though major secrets were leaked, laws were broken. We need to hold people to those standards. People keep comparing it to Biden and Mike Pence holding papers, but they cooperated with the Justice Department. Right. And let me remind everybody that Pence is a Republican, Biden's a Democrat. They both did the right thing. And instead, Donald Trump tried to cover it up. And so I feel here, there's this dichotomy. People who want to see the right things happening and people who don't. And that goes with Ukraine and Russia too. People want what they want. And Russia is bound and determined to destroy everything to get it. And hey, Ukraine itself, is not without its means to try to cause trouble for Russia.
The liminal area in between these 2 points perhaps suggests that there is an unease that's going to continue.
Yep, and again with the House of Representatives, it's the same thing. The people who want to try to work and see if they can't pass some legislation this year, and those who are just going to say, nope, you burned our bridge by passing that debt ceiling, and we're not going to work.
It's inertia.
Yeah.
And, it's like two strong forces.
Well, it's leading to that.
Yeah.
So let's move on. Let's go over here and look at what the overall impact is, right? The overall impact is...
Some are going to feel impassioned and want to try to bring a better look into the situation, a better sense of love, universal love, unconditional caring.
People are going to try to change hearts and minds, with their heart, and trying to get people to think about, think more compassionately about these things. And is it going to work?
Well, but to some degree, because that is the overall impact, it may, at least from a sense of how it is perceived in the world, media-wise, otherwise, really be the reigning thing. That maybe some of these people will be a little bit patted down because
which people are we talking about? Because there's 3 scenarios here.
Okay, but in terms of people who are out for something more aggressive, they may be tamped down a little bit by the fact that there is so much support for finding peace.
So, in other words, that fits very well with Russia and Ukraine. That fits very well. Well, I don't know how it fits with the indictment. Some people want to see a settlement of some sort, but it doesn't sound like it's going to be easy. Donald Trump doesn't settle easily. He already said that if he's willing to settle or plea, there has to be a payback to him, money-wise. Can you believe it? So, I would have thought it would be that he would be able to still run for office because he cares about making America great again. Not just about a money payment, but what do I know? So there's that. And there's also, I'm sorry, did I go off there a little bit?
Well, I hadn't heard that, so I'm like, really?
I just heard that today, that he said the only way he would plea, and he acted like he probably would not plea, was if they would be paying him compensation for all of this trouble, I guess. So, this phony case. But at any rate, ultimately, where does this all lead for all these 3 scenarios? We seem stuck. We seem blocked. So, number 1, it wouldn't surprise me, Mr. O, if I didn't see much movement in the House of Representatives this week.
No one's in the driver's seat.
And number 2, we may see some interesting things going on in Florida with the Trump trial. Who knows? Maybe the dates will be delayed. Maybe something else will happen. Maybe that judge will make some kind of strange decision that, of course, will then have to go, like with the special master case, we'll have to go to other judges to iron out. This all takes time. This all is a delaying tactic, and so it could be that.
Right, nobody will really be in control.
And of course,
for a while at least.
And of course, with Russia, Ukraine, I almost have to say here, maybe Ukraine might make some gains with their offensive, but overall, everything seems to be staying the same.
And it just looks like chaos that doesn't really go anywhere, that's stuck, so it's sort of like a sense of consternation that's not good, irritation.
And this could be something else entirely. Maybe somebody could find a way to tie that burning tower into all the fires going on in the world. There could be other implications
here. A
here.
good point. Feel free to leave us a comment or email us at our Gmail account. Tell us, what you think about this. Maybe we're wrong, or maybe there's a good point to share that we missed.
But hey, we gave you 3 scenarios to think about this time, as it could fit any of these, and maybe more. So we'll see what happens when we meet you again next week for another installment of Your Weird Week. Take care, everybody, and we'll see you next time.
Bye-bye.
Bye.